Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
Travel blogging and South Australia. Find out about travel blogging when I speak to backpacker Becki and what you can see and do if you go to South Australia. That's all coming up on the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Hello and welcome to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Later in the show we'll be hearing from Amy Thomas, who represents South Australia in the UK. I did and ah about replaying this interview because of the cricket score, but just because England has a cricket team that's, well, useless, doesn't mean we shouldn't go and visit a destination, so I decided to play it anyway. So we're going to find out all we need to know about visiting South Australia. But first, travel blogging. I had an email yesterday about the 50 best travel blogs to read worldwide, and I thought that'd be good. That'd be a nice feature for the show because travel bloggers are can be very interesting people and can be a great way of finding out about visiting a destination. So I thought I could talk about that article. Went to click on the link through LinkedIn, and all the virus checkers went nuts and they said don't go there, so I didn't. But because I had the idea of travel blogs, I thought I'd replay an interview I did with a travel blogger called Backpacker Becki. As you know, dear listener, I have trouble pronouncing words, and I really struggle with Backpacker Becki. When it comes to travel blogging, it does seem to be the ideal thing to do. A couple of years ago, I went to a presentation at a travel agents in North London, and the speakers were travel bloggers. One was actually a geek. He works for Microsoft, but he writes a travel blog part-time, and through the travel blog he gets paid to travel around the world and write about what he's seen. And I'm thinking, as a travel agent, I have to sell loads of holidays to get the opportunity to do what you're doing, and you're being paid to do that just because you're writing to 3,000 or 4,000 people. So that seemed the ideal job to do. So I looked into it, haven't done it yet really. I have a blog, doesn't really do much. But of course I do have this travel show, which is just like having a blog. There are yearly awards about the best blogger. I had 40 before 30 on a couple of years ago because that was the best blog in the UK. And last year I had backpacker Becki on the show because she won the award. And as you know, dear listener, I do struggle with pronouncing some words, so perhaps writing a blog would be better than trying to talk into a microphone, because you're going to know I'm going to struggle saying backpacker Becki for the rest of the show. But anyhow, because I had the idea of having blogs on this show and the link didn't work, I thought I'd replay this interview I did with Becki, and we're now going to find out about her blog and why she blogs, and hopefully you might be encouraged to come up with your own blog and share everything you know with the world. Who is Becki?
I'm a 30-year-old backpacker and blogger. Just finished a 15-month stint, which was supposed to be 18 months to a year around the world, but it ended up concentrating on Central, Eastern and Southeast Asia before coming home for a few things and taking off again.
When did you start travelling?
I started travelling on solo stints around 7 or 8 years ago when I had a bit more money, and I would use sort of my annual leave to go on short backpacking trips and sort of adventure holidays, or I sort of made my first kind of steps on Asian soil in Vietnam back then. I did do some really cool school trips that gave me a thirst for travel when I was in my teens, that went to Russia and parts of Eastern Europe and things to learn about history. So I got the bug back then, but I've been doing it for a while. But this 15-month trip was my first huge trip away. Before that, I'd only been away for 5 weeks, was my longest time away.
It's quite a big jump, isn't it, from 5 weeks?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. So
I'm not sure if this is going to be a quick answer or not, but which countries have you visited in your travelling life?
I've been everywhere from America, but I have yet to do Canada. Lots of Southeast Asia. The only places I haven't done in Southeast Asia are the Philippines, Indonesia, and sort of Papua New Guinea and sort of around there. But there's like Mongolia, China, North and South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, all of the Southeast Asia set trail that people do. I've also volunteered in Madagascar and Cambodia, and need to do a bit more of Africa because I've just done Madagascar and Kenya. Yeah, it's lots, but I still have a lot of Africa to do. I haven't yet gone to Australia and New Zealand, so there's still lots to see, and lots more of Europe as well. It's on my doorstep, but I tend to push further afield really for the time being.
Yes, I'm the same. There's hardly any countries in Europe I've visited, and I need to do something about that.
Yeah, I think it's quite expensive as well. There's always a draw to places like Asia where you know you're going to get more for your money. You can spend 2 or 3 weeks there for the same amount that you would spend for about 4 days in Europe or something. So, yeah, it's easy to be swayed by other places.
How did your blog come about?
I always wanted to have a blog of some form. I'm always the kind of person that, you know, I feel like I have something to say, or I have a good laugh with my mates, and we would always talk about, you know, should I have a general website about life and everything. And then at the same time, I've always had a passion for travel. I've always wanted to do something with my writing. I used to work in public relations full time, and writing press releases and things like that was something I really liked. So I wanted to combine the writing side of that with a personal passion or a hobby. And then before I went on my big around the world trip, I had a friend who was a web designer, and he set me up a very basic but great travel blog. And it was almost like a present. He said, you know, go and do it, you know, use it and make something of it. You know, I like your writing, and I think that it could be something. And over time, it grew, and I sort of changed platforms. I went to WordPress, and I started to do it all properly. And that's the very start of it, really. It was a gift. It was something I wanted, and somebody gifted me with that, essentially.
You said you changed platforms, but has it changed in any other way since the early days?
There's been a slight new design, and there's a new one coming up as well. And just my style of writing, I think, has got better now that I've learned how to balance work with travel, and I've grown into a style that I'm comfortable with. So yeah, a lot of things have changed, absolutely. I think before I left to go traveling, I was filling it with, you know, other travel stories, whereas now there's more of a flow and you know, it's a kind of a chronological order of my travels. So you can see where I went before the trip I'm talking about now. So there's a lot more style to it now.
So you have a set way to write the blog now, really?
Yeah, I know the kind of things I want to write about. And when I'm out traveling, seeing things, I know now the kind of things I'm trying to pick up on, or the things I want to write about. So over time, it just becomes you, I guess.
How often do you post?
I try and do one big post at least once a week, and then more if possible. Depends on timing with other workload or where I am, what I'm doing. And but in between, I'm always posting on Twitter and my Facebook fan page, and yeah, just keeping the flow of information and fun travel things and anything that keeps the audience engaged in between. But at least once a week on the actual site.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie.
Join me here on Seclo Sounds.
In your smile. It's from 1975. Eric and Ernie were four.
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, you know, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Still to come, Amy Thomas is going to tell us all about the 20-minute city. But at the moment, I'm speaking to backpacker Becki. See, I still I'm going to have trouble with this. We're finding out about her blog and why she does it. Of course, when you come to writing a blog, it's very easy to sit there and just type away and put your own opinion on stuff. It can be difficult to be balanced, and sometimes it can be difficult to bring up difficult subjects. How many times can I say difficult in one sentence? But anyway, if you want to be a good blogger, you have to be balanced and you have to cover bits and pieces that people might shy away from. So I asked Becki about this and how it affects her when she writes a blog. What's been the hardest thing you've had to write about?
I'm an issues-based writer, and I think sometimes it's very hard to come across places where politics has to be mentioned or it has to be explained. And I'm not a politician, and I'm not a qualified historian, so sometimes it's really difficult to try and convey something in the correct way. So if I'm talking about the demilitarized zone that cuts through North and South Korea, or I wrote a post on North Korea, and that was really difficult. And I've only actually written one post solely on North Korea just because it was so emotional and difficult to understand, and also trying to get across the notion of the propaganda, the brainwashing, the politics, when I'm not a North Korean expert. So that can be difficult. I've just come back from Israel, and I did a few visits to the West Bank, and that's also going to be something that's very difficult to write about. And even just posting pictures on my Facebook fan page stirs up a lot of people who are either pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, and that in itself just proves that, you know, you have to be so careful with what you write about. And we might not be writing for a national paper where we have to be even more careful about what we write about, but I think even as a blogger, you have a job to inform and educate and inspire, and you have to do that in the right way.
Yeah, rather you than me, I'm not very subtle when it comes to things like that. I'm bound to cause problems.
No, I think it's fine. I think that the good thing about blogging is it can be emotional. You can say if you don't like something, or you can say, this really upset me. But I think at the same time, personally, I think it's important if I did say, X, Y, and Z upset me at the West Bank, but here's the actual balanced view of what's going on there as well. I just think that's really important.
So you can be a little bit grumpy every now and again.
If I don't like something, I will say it. I think my grumpiest post is one called "Annoying Things Travelers Say," and I just hit a wall with the amount of annoying people that I'd met in such a short space of time. And I remember going back to my room and literally writing that post within half an hour. It just poured out of me, and it was actually in a way quite humorous. It was grumpy but humorous. But yeah, there's times when you have to let it out.
Apart from when you've letting it out, all the frustrations, what's the easiest blog you've ever written?
What's the what, sorry?
The easiest one you've ever written, the easiest post.
I think the easiest post comes from when you go somewhere and you absolutely love it. So, for example, when I was in Tokyo, I was just in absolute awe of the city. I loved everything about it, the madness, how mannered they are in comparison, just everything. And so I sat and I thought, okay, how am I going to write about Tokyo? Because there's just so much going on. And so I just decided to write I wrote down every single thing I loved about Tokyo, and it ended up being 16 things. And I'm not big into the top 10 lists. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But with Tokyo, it was really easy just to write a top 16 things I love about Tokyo. And it was just a really lovely post to write. So things like that are the easiest, I'd say.
The closest I ever got to going to Tokyo was at a Tokyo trade do. I won the prize before the free trip.
Okay.
I won 2 T-shirts which were medium size, and I'm 6'3" and 18 stone. They were never going to fit, but I'll get there one day.
Like a tank top.
Yeah. They made nice socks, I think.
Yeah.
You post reviews on your blogs. How important are the supplier's ethics to you?
It's really important that everything I review, whether it's an event or activity or an item of clothing, it matches my audience. and my blog. So I'm not going to review